Hello, everyone. Andrew here with Kimball Realtors. And, you may have noticed that I haven't made a real estate video in a couple of months. And the only reason that is that we're literally in the middle of winter and it's just the slowest time for real estate. And so I really haven't made real estate videos because there's just not much going on in our market and in real estate in general, other than, the interest rates have jumped up a little, came down a little, but nothing really major happening and no real cost for that. So I haven't been making any real estate videos. I've kind of been doing something a little more creative, just doing some AI generated art that I was doing. It's just a little creative thing I like to do. So you're seeing some of those videos on there. So if you're wondering why I haven't been making any real estate videos, that's really the reason. There just isn't anything going on in the real estate market right now. I wish there was, but it's the slowest time of the year and we're in a slow period, slower than normal for real estate. So that's really the only reason. So I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're watching. I really just do these videos as a creative outlet. Everyone always says, hey, like, comment, and subscribe because we want to get subscribers. We want to get views out there. And I'm telling you, I'm glad that you stopped by here. If you liked what you see, great. I'm glad you liked what you see. If you didn't like it, just move on because I'm just making these videos. I'm not really doing this to try to get, a million views or anything like that. I'm just making these videos as a creative outlet and talk to people a little bit about real estate because I love to talk about real estate and current events. So that brings me to today's topic, which is a current event topic. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I really watched the timeline on what's happening with this balloon, this Chinese, what they called a civilian weather balloon coming over our airspace. And what I did is I kind of researched into the timeline of it, and the timeline just doesn't make any sense if this was a civilian weather balloon that came over our airspace. Because if you watch, what happened was it actually, in the last 7 days, it's been on this 7-day trip basically. And Saturday, January 28th, it was first seen over Alaskan airspace. So right away, we knew that it was there. Now, my first thought from day one is diplomatically, why weren't we talking to China and say, hey, there's this balloon over our airspace? And at that time, they would have said, it's a weather balloon that has gone off course. That's simply what it is. But they didn't. They continued to let this balloon go and didn't acknowledge that it was there. And again, I would have thought right on day one, the first time that we saw it, we would have started diplomatic channels. I'll tell you a little later in the timeline how everything went down. But we would have started diplomatic channels to find out what this was and what was going on with it. So on January 28th, it was first seen over Alaska, right? And then on the 30th, actually, it went into Canadian airspace. And then again on the 31st, it redeveloped over the United States airspace and went into Idaho. And from there, well, I guess someone's calling me on real estate right now, but you're gonna hear that in the background. Sorry, it's gonna be ringing there. Sorry about that. But on February 1st, it actually went over Montana, and it actually went over some of our nuclear missile sites, and went over those areas there. Now, again, this is actually, from what I could tell, the timeline. February 1st was the first time that we talked about it with anyone at the Chinese embassy. So it had already been known for 3 days before we even talked to anyone at their embassy. Now, again, I would have thought on day one, we would have contacted the Chinese embassy to say, hey, what is this? Or they would have contacted us. They knew it was there. They knew exactly where it was the entire time. They had devices on it, so they know where it was. And if it was off course, they would have contacted us and said, hey, look, there's this balloon coming. It's off course. That's why it's there. But they never did. It basically continued on the mission that it was doing. So basically on Friday, February 3rd, is the first time that China actually acknowledged publicly that it was their balloon, and they claimed that it was a civilian aircraft, that it was a weather balloon that had basically been blown off track. Now, me personally, and again, these are my opinions on this timeline. I don't know anything more than what I've been seeing on all the different news channels and articles that I've been trying to read about this. But February 3rd, was the first time that China publicly acknowledged that yes, it was theirs, and they said there's a civilian air balloon. But again, in my opinion, it would have went back to the very first day that it came into our airspace. They would have said something had that been the case. I don't think they really wanted to say anything until they were caught, basically. So as everyone knows, then yesterday, which was February 4th, when it got over to the Carolinas or just over to the Atlantic Ocean, we then shot it down. We don't know what's going to happen. China says there could be some repercussions for it. They reserve the right to have their response to it. But I keep thinking of the timeline of this because I've driven through Montana before, and basically they said when they shot this down, there was going to be about a 7 mile air or debris field that it could possibly land on within 7 miles. Well, we're pretty good at uh, watching everything, being able to figure out track where everything is at. So if you've ever been through Montana, you'll go through miles and miles and miles before you see anything. If you're going down the interstate through Montana, you'll go through miles and miles before you see anything. So I think there would have been a pretty good place we could have shot this down rather than letting it go over and continue to get information for China. I think if we had done that, then China would have really been mad because it would have been during its mission. It almost seems to me like we waited until it was completely across the United States before we did anything about it. And that just raises some questions in my mind. And like I said, I'm not an expert on this. I don't claim to be an expert on this, but that's what I saw with the timeline. It's like if it came in on the 28th into our airspace for the first time over Alaska, and Alaska's pretty barren as well. Why weren't we on day one contacting the Chinese embassy saying, hey, what is this? It's already in our airspace. It's already a violation. And we should have been doing something on day one before it ever got over the continental United States. Something that I think everyone kind of needs to look at and form their own opinion on. Hopefully, there won't be any other things that come of this, but it just is a reminder of, the fact that there's a lot of things going on that we need to be aware of. We need to kind of be aware of, who our adversaries are, who our friends are, and the line seems to be kind of getting blurred. I mean, why did China have basically a spy balloon coming over our nuclear missile, ballistic missile sites? It's kind of scary when you think about that. And I think right now we're all really unaware of what's happening around us. So I hope this makes you stop and think a little bit too. Again, to what I mentioned there in the beginning, I hadn't done any real estate videos recently just because there just hasn't been a lot going on. And so if you see some other things on there, like some just little fun projects I've been doing, I've just been doing them for fun. And again, I do this channel for fun. This is what I do. It's just, I'm not saying that it's not important to me and the information is not important, but I do this for fun. And I'm not, like I said, trying to get a million likes and a million views and that kind of stuff. I'm not a monetized channel. I'm not even worried about that. So if you like it, great. Watch my videos. If you don't like it, there's millions of other channels out there for you to watch. So I'm going to continue doing what I do. I'm going to have some real estate videos. I'm going to have some of the AI art videos, some different things going on that I have fun with. And if you like it, comment, tell me what you want to see, and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching.